brother. Tonight,
one night only, live from the Tacoma Dome, the Great Northwestern Wrestling Federation presents the professional wrestling event of the year, Salmon Slam. The Great Northwest's strongest, most audacious champions performing some of the riskiest, most death-defying maneuvers you've ever seen in a one-night wrestling extravaganza. And for tonight's main event, the body-slamming stuntman himself, the dangerous Dieter Skank, will defend the Timberland Title against the master manipulator and leader of the Vice Squad, the Quality Paulie Primo. Only one man will leave the ring with the GNWF World Heavyweight Championship belt around his waist. Will Dieter Skank be able to defy the odds yet again and prove he still has what it takes to be champion? Or will Paulie Primo call in help from his Vice Squad teammate, the smooth operator Sammy Styles, to help steal the title away? Stay tuned to find out and see appearances from classic GNWF champions like Big Bay Bunyan and the Scottish villain himself, Bonnie Parker McDade. Live tonight, only at Salmon Slam.
Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. As always, you can find updates about the show over on Blue Sky at Risky Standard, or more frequently, over in the show's Discord channel, where we hang out and chat about the show, some of our favorite tabletop RPGs, interesting snack foods, and you can find the link to that over in the show notes. I am your host and frequent GM, Mitch Brewster, and that's it. Nobody else. You're stuck with me for the intro today. Today's episode is the second half of our game of Fiasco by Jason Morningstar. If you have not listened to the previous episode, probably stop and go back and do that first. We are returning with Act 2 of our tale of mayhem and mishap in the Great Northwestern Wrestling Federation. The GNWF's premier event of the summer, the Salmon Slam, draws near. The champion Dieter Skank has been told he has been booked to lose the belt to the promoter's son, the young troublemaker known as Paulie Primo, at the Salmon Slam main event. Meanwhile, Paulie's tag team partner and friend, Sammy Styles, conspires with the retired Bonnie Parker McDade to use Salmon Slam as an opportunity to rip off the company and get their revenge on the GNWF. This episode will wrap up our time with Fiasco, and next week we are going to be back with another Risky Standard side story. Follow us across the stars as we use the Forged in the Dark game Scum and Villainy to explore another distant corner of the universe from Season 1, following the mysterious efforts of a ring intelligence organization called the Division of Silent Accords. After that, you can expect us to dive headfirst into Season 2 and our new campaign of Felix Isaac's The Wild Sea. But before any of that, we need to turn our eyes back towards the 1980s and the Tacoma Dome, where greed and glory meet inside the squared circle. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. We had a lot of fun playing in the world of the GNWF, and who knows, maybe we will return to it again someday. So, with the tilt decided, the tilt elements chosen, we are now in Act 2. Act 2 is where the wheels should start to come off. Things are going wrong. New problems have emerged. Fires, metaphorical and maybe literal, will need to be fought. This is where we unscrew the jar of crazy and throw the lid at someone. And so, same as before, we're going to take turns. When it is our turn, we get a scene. We are going to start establishing or resolving scenes again, just like we did in Act 1. But this time, when we get that dice at the end of a scene, whether we've allocated it or whether we've resolved or established, we will keep the dice. So in this way, you can start to have a little bit more control over your dice pool when we go into the aftermath, which will be the point where we decide how do things end for your character. And so some things to look for, the game tells us. Don't forget, the last die is wild, which means that last one doesn't have to be a good or a bad outcome based on the color. We can choose it. And so the game also tells us, building across Act 2, when the last die has been claimed, Act 2 ends. Build towards this. The dice are a pacing mechanism, so we've always got a good idea where we are in the story. Our goal should be to get our guy to a satisfactory conclusion, or near one, by the time the dice run out. Once they do, we've only got the aftermath to finish our character's story, which will be fast and uncertain. Pete, you want to get us rolling? I think probably this is maybe like we're in Salmon Slam now, right?
This is like, I think, the night maybe before. I think there's like a charged atmosphere in the Tacoma Dome. So we've gone through it a bunch of times. We've rehearsed. Bigfoot has seen a lot of this before. And so he's seen it, and it's like Dieter is still pushing this last minute change, where I think it's like late night here, right? We've ran through it a bunch of times. I don't know, maybe bust open the door with Sean Foote in the office. Bam, 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 knocking on the door. Sir, and I don't say that lightly, I think you and I know this federation is built on thrills. I know we've got the script all patted down. I know this is locked in, but I just got to tell you, in my heart of hearts, I just don't think they're going to want it. Now, let me tell you why. We are getting very close to a new millennium. It is only 20 years away. What do we want to see? We want to see our, and I think he stopped himself from saying elders, more seasoned experience showcased, okay? Do you really want the Great Northern to be about drugs and degeneracy? I don't think so. I think we got to put these boys in line. I know he's your son, and this guy, Sammy, he's thinking, okay? What he told me, his idea, will teach Paulie a lesson. We switch it last minute. Paulie goes up, he goes down. I'm on top. Me, Sammy, we're a tag team now. We start making our way back up. Hear me out. I know he's your kid, but this guy's got an axe to grind, and I just think this is such a great example to show what the Great Northern's about. Traditional values. Reagan's a president, damn it.
I think Sean Foote is like sitting at the desk, right? Like fingers steepled together during this entire speech. He's wearing, like an expensive suit in the modern style, right? Like big open collar, right? Like chest hair exposed. Probably got like a heavy medallion hanging there. It's a little 70s still, but it's like 70s into, he's like a guy trying to be with it in the 80s, but his sense of style is still in the 70s. There's a smoldering cigar in an ashtray, paper spread everywhere. Like I said, stacks of money. There's definitely like a dirty mirror on the desk with like a little bit of like white residue. I think he kind of, very calmly slides it behind a stack of papers as Dieter is talking, kind of caught up in it. And he's like, Dieter, listen, I get it. And you get it. We know that that's not what the great sport's about, right? This is a good, upstanding American business. And I get that, and I get where you're coming from. The other thing about wrestling is it's about making money. He grabs like a sheaf of a paper off the top and kind of like slaps it down on the table in front of Dieter, and he's like, now I love a classic American baby face, brings us home, good night, 1, 2, 3. The crowd, they used to love it. But I'm looking at these merch sales right now. I'm looking. And you see this little bar right here, this number? That's Dangerous Dieter Skank shirt sales. And you see this little number below? You see this bar? That's about twice as long there. That's the Vice Squad. And that's my boy, Paulie Primo. And I don't love it. If I could put him in a flag cape, get him to stop slicking his hair back like that, look like a nice upstanding young man, I'd love to, but it's not what put butts in seats anymore, Dieter. The business is changing, and listen, out there, we're one of the last big territories still holding on. Everybody else is getting bought out. They're getting shut down, and we have a chance to take a hold of the market here and solidify ourselves before we're just chumming the water for the big sharks. And now, Dieter, I know it's tough. It's tough sometimes to do the job, but I got to know, tomorrow night, when we're on the big stage, when all eyes are on us, when we are filling the entire lower level and even some portions of the upper level at the new Tacoma Dome. I gotta know you're not gonna go into business for yourself, Dieter.
Dieter is like back turned, and you can see his shoulders tremoring as he's breathing hard. He's like, "Sir, Mr. President, let me say for the record, your numbers disregard completely the Ripcord Racer stunt cycle sales, which have been through the roof. If this is what you want, I can't make you any promises. This may be the last you've seen of Dieter Skank, and I don't think you want that either."
Listen, we're the night before. We can't change the game now, but after tomorrow night, after everything's over, we're going to have a drink and we're going to start talking about the Dieter Skank comeback story. We're going to start talking about Dieter's reascent. We're talking about, who's going to put these youngins in their place? Well, surely it's the dangerous Dieter Skank. Everybody loves a comeback story. They love a guy who's down, who fights the big bads. Think about what year did Rambo come out? Have I seen that film yet? I sure did. That was
come out 1982. Yeah,
yeah.
Of course we saw
Rambo?
it. Of course we saw it. The inaugural theater run. There's no way to watch movies at home yet.
You think about John Rambo fighting these guys out in the woods. He's an underdog. That could be you, Dieter Skank. He shows up in the stands. He comes down. He lays a little whoop ass on these youngins. You could be a phantom. We could think you're a whole new character. Think about a camo stunt cycle.
Look, thanks for a second.
You could be a troop.
Sean, you of all people do not have to lecture me about what goes up must come down. I know better than most. And your boy, he's going down. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after, but he's going down, and I'm talking for real.
I think this is going to be it's going to be a chance to test Paulie in the primo prime time. Primo prime time. Write that down, actually. That's something interesting.
Yes, sir. The intern.
Does this scene end poorly or negatively for...
Well, no, I was going to say one other thing here is I think like picking up one of these stacks of money blows off some of this dust. It goes, well, wonder if any of the local authorities might want to know about any of this ongoing drywall work you've got planned.
So does this end poorly or does this end negatively for Dieter?
Negatively? I
Negatively.
mean, you talk to the owner of the organization like that. And
I can agree on negative for Pete. So that's a black dice for Peter. So I think Sean leans forward then, not angry, right? But he puts his hand on that stack of money, right? Now, Dieter, before we make any rash moves, I just want us to think about who owns the rights to the likeness of the character, the dangerous Dieter Skank.
Don't you dare. Don't
who
you
owns
dare
the
take
rights
that
to
Ripcord Racer away.
The Ripcord Racer?
I do. I am this brand, damn it.
I think if you look at the contracts, Dieter, you're going to find that it's a very different name on the bottom there when it comes to who owns certain things. And now listen, Dieter, you've been a great asset to this company. I think you could continue to be a great asset for many, many years. But for every Dieter Skank, there's a big babe bunion that nobody talks about. Nobody's seen in the ring in a decade. Now, you want to go the way of the lumberjack, or you want to do the job?
Well, I'll see you tomorrow. And I think he storms out. And all you can hear kind of off in the distance is the 150 cc's of a Rebel Racer just ripping loud into the night. Okay, so that's a black dice for me. You are up next there, Bonnie Parker.
I think in this scene, he's, tying up all the loose ends, making sure his nefarious plan goes without a hitch, I think he's probably talking to these two jobber guys that, luckily, I think I'm saying to them, it's like, all right, listen, you two are damn lucky. And if I had my way, you would not be here tonight. Okay? But the boss needs more padding. So that's why you're here. So yeah, I think, we're running the routine. We're getting everything settled. And we're like, I'm like, okay, all right. Let's break. You guys are good. Keep running this routine while I'm gone. I'll see you later. He's going up in the rafters. making sure that the rigging is, set in the way that he's like setting it up for, which is to, fail. Checking in with like the new security detail. Like, tell me, you're lactose intolerant, right? Like, I think he's just like, whatever, dotting his I's and crossing his T's. I'm talking with Sammy and I'm like, okay, the boss is going to be in the office watching through a closed circuit television. Okay. He's going to see every angle from on every screen of every camera. Okay. There is going to be a moment where Paulie takes a tumble. His father's going to be concerned. He's going to rush out to make sure that he's okay. That is when I can make my move. The guards, they'll be taken care of.
Look, I'm just trying to make sure we don't have too many hands in this. These guys you picked for Foot's security.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know anything about what's going on here, right? I think that's too many mouths to feed for me.
They're very, very stupid. It's going to be very easy.
I reach into like my bag, my duffel bag, with like that same duffel bag we saw me coming into the gym with earlier, right? It's like I unzip it. I'm digging through my gears in there, and I think I pull out like another little baggie of drugs, right?
Yeah.
And I say, now look, that rigging doesn't have to drop all the way. We don't need to kill these guys.
No, absolutely not.
But just in case, just to make sure it sells right, Paulie usually gets a little pick-me-up before a match.
Mm-hmm.
I got him a little bring me down. He's going to be, not as fast on his feet as he usually is. It should be good for making sure he doesn't fall too gracefully. The worst thing could happen here, the thing we got to avoid. Paulie ain't great in the ring, but he's not the worst either. If those two manage to recover, they make this thing look right. If Mr. Foot doesn't leave his office, then the whole plan's a wash. So it's got to look bad. And I'm not trying to kill anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody that bad. But I'm not going to mind if he's got a few bumps and bruises the next day. You know what I mean. So let's just do everything we can to ensure that it goes just wrong enough.
And what's in that bag? You need to put some China White in mix it in.
I put my hand on your shoulder, and I think it's like a repetition of like a gesture we've seen people doing to each other, of like kind of a power move, a little bit of like, Bonnie, listen, the Vice Squad knows what it's doing when it comes to this kind of thing. And is this scene going to end good or bad for Bonnie Parker?
Good. Hear a pitch.
I think I know what a bad ending looks like, maybe. Okay, so yeah, well, let's give Malcolm that black dice then. So I think maybe we get these like scenes of reassurance where Bonnie, where I'm like, Bonnie, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to have Paulie looking sloppy out there. You've done your job with the rigging, right? We're going to give old Dieter a scare, a little bit of payback for what he did to you, right? Not that we're trying to hurt him that bad. Just a little scare, a little, make him remember how old he really is.
Maybe it's actually, we're doing him, if you think about it, we're actually doing him a favor.
A lot of people would say that.
Yeah. You're going to have no choice but to retire after this.
Lots
He's
of
got
people
3
saying
beautiful daughters to take care of. He shouldn't be out here doing these kinds of things.
No.
You've seen how he moves. And while this is happening, I think the camera moves, right, back down to my duffel bag. Where, besides the drugs and my wrestling gear, right, we see like just the slight shine of a revolver. There's a gun in my bag. I'm willing to let this be a little bit worse than maybe you are.
Yes.
Or that you think it's going to be. And so then we give that black die to Malcolm. Yeah, you keep it now. So it leaves 6 die in the pool. It is me next, huh? I guess I haven't resolved one for myself yet. Do you guys have... Does the table have a place to put Sammy? An interesting place for Sammy to start his second to last scene?
I think Sammy and Paulie should talk, maybe. Because I'm kind of not quite grasping, like is Poly Primo like read in on what's going on here? Like, does he know the setup, or is he just kind of like a useful idiot?
Definitely doesn't know the setup. I think
Okay.
part of this is like, I want to punish Polly.
So maybe it's like Sammy and Polly, and you're just like greasing him up before the match, and kind of being like, you really fucking got this. Like, I just talked to Dieter and he's in bad shape, man. He's fired up. Like, this is gonna be easy,
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I like that. So yeah, it's like in the locker room. This is like maybe like an hour or two before it's like the show is happening right now, right? The sound of like the opening matches like is echoing through the hallway, right? There's wrestlers kind of walking around, but Paulie's got his own locker room, right? He's not in like the group locker room area. He's got his own private room. I think Dieter probably does as well, and those two might be the only guys that do. But I'm in Paulie's private room, right? And it's like, listen, Paulie, I know you're probably feeling a little bit nervous about the move, but you and I, we've been practicing at the gym, and listen, these luchadors have been pulling this thing off for a couple decades now. It's not a new move. It's just outside your usual repertoire. But listen to me. When you do that, when you get up there, you're going to be looking like you're flying when this rig gets you guys up. And remember, you're going to let his motion kind of bring you up. And then it's just you don't really got to flip him. He's an old workhorse. He knows how to make it, how to sell it. You just got to be snap on that draw. Do it as hard as you can. He knows how to land. That rig's going to put you guys down safety. And listen, I think this is the time where I like reach into my trunks, right? And I pull out the same baggie we saw in the last scene. This is some good shit. This is going to put you in the right gear to get going. You're going to look like lightning out there. It's the old man's last match. Get a little stiff on him, right? Really sell this thing. It's not like he needs to worry about being able to wrestle next week. I talked to your dad. I think after this, Dieter's done.
First off, I'm not nervous, okay? That is not what I am. Why are we doing this much work when I could just, I could just give him an armbar across the mat. Anything I do is going to make the people go crazy. Why am I working this hard? You're right. Lightning out there. You said it as he rubs a little bit on the gums. I'm going to be lightning out there. Remember, we are the Vice Squad, right? And the old man doesn't need to know this, but if it comes to it, who knows, maybe I'll tag you in.
And I think, I put my hands up. I'm like, listen, Polly, listen, I would love, to call an audible, to do something a little flashier, but you don't need to bring me in there. We think about it, right? Who deserves to be the star of your win, right? You're a new kind of thing. You're not just a heel. You're a whole new kind of wrestler, baby. And that's why we're doing this. This is why you're getting the push. You're in a singles match. I'm here on the opening card. I might not even be out there. I don't want the crowd to be thinking about me at all. If this is your show, don't think about yourself as the Vice Squad. You're Poly Primo, the quality Mr. Vice.
Damn me, my guy. When I take this whole thing over, get the old man out of here, with this match, maybe in the next week we'll take care of 2 old men.
Now that's thinking. Listen, the whole landscape's changing. You and I, we got a vision for what the future might be. I put the baggie like into your, I actually reach forward. I tuck it into like your trunks at your hip, and then I pat it there, secure, and I say, now listen, it's good stuff, but you gotta promise me, you want that lightning to last as long. You know how it is. You're not gonna get another chance once you're out there. So you save that until right before you're about to go out. Your music hits. There we go. That's the money right there. That's gonna coast you right through. I've been doing a little of the work myself this week, timing it out. I think that's the primo move. I think the scene ends positively for me. I think Polly's, I'm feeding him, just like buttering him up, giving him I'm only here to make him look good. And I think I do a pretty good job at that. And I think, maybe the scene ends and it's like, I'm like wrestling a mid-card match tonight, and it's like time for me to go out there and do my thing. And so, I look at you and I say, Paulie, rising tides lift all boats, man. I can't wait to see you be a real star. And then I head out, my music starts playing. I'm out the locker room. I'm striding down. And I'll take a little white dice here for myself. And I think, after that, like Sammy goes out and wrestles like a glued but entirely unexceptional match, right? Mm-hmm. I'm wrestling in a singles match with another guy who was like in a tag team that we used to feud with, but since they can't have like, we can't do a tag team match because you're getting the singles push. It's like a weird singles match between two tag team guys, and it's like the crowd's not crazy for it, but it's an okay match. I'm like maybe really actually reining it in just a little bit.
I think that was maybe Bonnie's suggestion. He's like, you don't want to be too flashy. We got to keep a low profile, and everything will be, go off without a hitch.
And so that leaves Tim, and then we will be down to our last 4 scenes.
Okay. I think that our boy Paulie here has, as they've been setting up this week for, Salmon Slam, he's been kind of getting close with some of the people who are working the event, partying with them a bit. And as often happens when you're on stimulants, you talk about future plans with people, things that will be happening. I'm going to take this shit over. He's talked about how he knows his old man is going to watch him wrestle. He's going to be ringside. He doesn't let that shit happen. And that is a time to go in. And I get someone who's been working there to maybe try to steal some of the paperwork that if I get it into my possession, we can start working on making the company mine. Does that make sense? Is that
you're kind of taking over for Dad?
Well, yeah, I think that in trying to like make that move and making friends with the people who run this, he now has made his own plan to try to get into that the office and steal the paperwork. That would allow him to start changing things over with his team of lawyers who he thinks he can convince to make the company his. I don't know who's playing that scene, though, I guess.
I mean, it could be like a more of a narrated, the game tells us like it has like a good bit about this, actually. Color scenes are great, like scenes that don't go for the throat, monologues, narrated montages, character-driven moments. Like I think we could, if we don't want this to be like a dialogue-heavy scene, this could be like a montage of like the thing that's actually been happening parallel to this entire plot we've been watching is like actually Paulie's been doing something. I
think we've been seeing Paulie knew my dad's going to come out and watch this. I'm his shining star. There's no way he's going to watch that on TV. Paulie's right about that. So we do get Sean Foote to leave the office. You guys think you are in business with your plan. And I think I'm in business with my plan of when I'm out in the ring, my people behind the scenes are about to also go into this office and you guys meet there. Is that something, or is that too...
There's definitely something there. Yeah. Let's like flesh this out a little bit. So the only thing I think is that I think we've established that your dad specifically does watch from the...
Oh, okay.
Right? Because that's
right,
why
I have to get hurt, right?
To draw him out, right? He's like he's too nervous to watch you directly because he's like stressed out about your safety.
Mm-hmm.
I like the thrust of what you're going though for here. I really like the idea that we get like there's this montage scene of like Paulie's got a different plan that's happening concurrently to everything else we've seen.
If in this shot in the movie, whatever, you would think that we are going to focus on the match as it starts, and it kind of pulls out, and we start to see security guards like unlocking certain doors as someone passes through, and we see backstage passes being shown to people that let them pass, and you see the mechanics of it, of the thing Paulie has been working on with the people who work the arena.
What if we get some shots like, of like flashback of like scenes where we've seen Paulie in the background talking to other like wrestlers in the training gym, right? But like we're like cutting around to the other side of like the conversation they're having too, which is about this plot to get this paperwork. So I guess
he's telling everyone you're going to be with me. You're going to be in the top with me when I take over,
Oh yeah, the exact same thing like you've been telling Sammy, right? Is like
you've heard this monologue 15 different times with all these different wrestlers. all of them are doing drugs with him. He's using the money that Daddy has to make sure that these people are on his side. And this is the first time you've seen that. Yeah, it's been in the background.
What is like the bones of the plot that we kind of get sketched out here, right? I guess it must mean Paulie has a different way of trying to lure his dad out of the room, right? What does that look like?
Maybe it is that he also is planning to kind of get hurt, but in a different way. Does that make sense? Like, he's like, that is the way he'll come out. I'm going to throw this. You think you guys are in control of me getting hurt. I think I'm in control of me getting hurt.
Oh, no.
So two people are both trying to do some hurting. And maybe I've talked in working with the people who work at the stadium. I've been talking to the rig guy myself. You know, we've been staying after hours talking about how let's get this rig to maybe not work as great as it needs to. He's also saying the same thing. No one needs to get hurt too bad. We need the old man to come out of the office. The bones of that are just all those various little conversations he's been having that we haven't seen before. And this is the first time we've heard about a plan from him to get his dad out of that office so that all that paperwork can be taken.
Do we think this scene ends negatively or positively for Paulie?
I kind of like the idea that this has been like happening the whole time under our noses. And like, I think maybe if we were watching the movie of this, like on a second watch through, you'd be like, oh, like Paulie's in the background of that scene. Or like,
yeah.
Or he's like just leaving when, you know.
So do you think it's positive then, Pete?
Yeah, I'm going to go positive. Only in that I like that it's been like stitched through this. And like in this scene, we get the sort of like,
the reveal.
Shit. Like we spent all
maybe
this
he's not
screen
smart.
time.
The prestige, yes.
But everyone thinks he's dumb enough that nothing would be going on with him.
Yeah, he's not smart, but he's like not quite as he's a little bit more ambitious maybe than we've all given him credit for.
Yeah.
I like that. So you get a white die there, Tim. So you're 2 and 2.
Wow.
Yeah. What's like the closing of this? Like, how do we kind of close this montage of like Paulie's preparations?
In the same way that you guys were planning on getting the door dudes to not be by the door, Paulie has also done his own preparation to make sure that head of security is the only one in this area of the building. He's directed everyone else to do something else, and it's him now, you know, looking over his shoulder, heading to the office.
Let's make a wrestler. Let's give a name. Like let's
call it a wrestler.
Let's
right.
let it be a guy. You know what I mean? So it's not just
sure. Oh, okay. Jim Reaper, and he's kind of doing like a weird Undertaker thing too, where
yeah,
big spooky guy that Paulie's been palling around with. Maybe wasn't going to make the cut because he's also not putting in the work at the gym. So yeah, Jim Reaper in his big black cloak that he kind of stalks around in, but he's the one who Paulie has put on the like you're getting into that office.
All right, that leaves us with one last round of scenes.
Do we just do these 4 in the ring? Like this is the.
I think so, probably, right? Yeah, like we have the aftermath, which is like a montage-driven thing, but you know what the game tells us is like for Act 2, like this is when things start going wrong. Your goal should be to get your guy to a satisfactory conclusion or near one by the time the dice run out. Once they do, you've only got the aftermath to finish your character's story, which will be fast and uncertain. And we do need to include a like magnificent self-destruction and also a thing someone stole has been stolen in this.
This is it. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the Salmon Slam for the Timberland title at the Tacoma Dome for the Great Northern Wrestling Federation. And I think it is just as you described. All of the lower level and some of the upper level is filled. The crowd is going wild. I think like we've probably had our opening matches concluded. It's like the title card is coming out now. Wafting kind of fog starts dropping from the balcony. There's a mist around and, you know, the ring is empty as, you know, I think like the crowd is starting to like chant, you know, dangerous, right? We got pyrotechnics. There are like fireworks. They're smaller fireworks, but it is like, you know, like hopping off when I think dangerous Dieter Skank hits a ramp off the backside and, you know, I think actually does land this motorcycle in the ring, hopping off, you know, kind of making the rounds. Like here we go. But as he's kind of doing this, is like looking around, making sure the key stuff is in place here, which is one,
Mhm.
make sure Big Sean Foot is looking, and I think he points right at him, pointing right at the camera, right? Which is like, he knows he's watching. Kind of the number one, and, looking around, he's looking for Bonnie. And I think like some part of Dieter here is like maybe feeling the swan song, right? Which is like, he's made his pitch. He's kind of said what needs to happen here. They don't agree, but they don't always agree with genius, right? People push back on brilliance, but this is his moment. This is a long match. Like, I'm thinking this is like several, like maybe 8 rounds or something.
Yeah, this is the last
right?
match of the night. This is like the big.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's
no
just
rounds in
going-
wrestling, but
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's boxing. So anyway, hey, spoiler alert for the audience. I know remarkably little about wrestling, and the fans are roaring, so I don't think that's really showing here.
Vice during these things, maybe the round break is like the character of Paulie Primo has to walk over and get a little sip of his beverage and hand it back to a piece of the entourage to be like, all right, I'm ready to go. No one here is tired, before they clash again.
Oh, for sure, right? Like, and I think
Sizing
Peter's like
each other
working the
up, yeah.
crowd, and it's like, this is the American dream. This is what it's all about here. Not like these new kids on the block. So it's just you and me, and I think we're just seeing some a lot of just like kind of hammering each other, palm
Right.
strikes, and we're grappling, and I think
Slingshot
describe some more
ropes
wrestling
and-
to me, Peter.
no problem. I've got him in holds. I've got him in grabs. Let's see. I did the high ropes thing, and so I think Dieter kind of looks like he's winning in the beginning. Really working him here, but I think he's shown his age a little bit, right? Like, and I think probably in the gleam of the hot lights and camera, you can see may dye his hair, but that chest hair is looking a little gray, right underneath the jumpsuits. And I think, when we're like in a headlock, grappled here, it's like, Paulie, you don't want to make your dad disappointed, right? You don't want to make all these people disappointed, right?
I don't.
Then you need to get on that mat. This one's for America, pal. And I think like leg sweep puts you on the ground, or is at least trying. And, we're straining a little here, new and old. But honestly, I think the crowd is kind of bored. Yeah, a little
How
bit.
is Paulie doing right now? Right?
I think-
Has he done the tainted drugs? Is that like?
Yeah, I think he's done them, but he also is doing other drugs. Like, and I think that in this situation where like these things are mixing, Paulie does get angry and maybe like at a certain point just straight up socks you in the face. Like he's starting
hard,
to actually
right.
like lose it.
Working
Like
stiff.
yeah, that's in the stomach.
Yeah. I think like at some
You
point
can't use that next line that you were supposed to do because like Paulie has now hit you in the gut 4 times and it's just not
Yeah, like
You
mid
just
vamp.
see-
I like
you
that.
you see him just like stiff.
Oh, totally. And it's like I like that. So even if I'm like I'm talking to the audience, right, and maybe just slugs him in the side, and it's like you don't even respect the sport, and like I think is throwing him down. You don't have discipline. You've never worked a day in your life, and I think it's actually kind of turning into a little bit of a fist fight here.
Camera cuts to Sean Foot inside his like private dressing room, right? He's got like a little bank of like CRT monitors with like the live broadcast and the alternate cameras. He's got like a little headset on. He's talking to the guys, like, to the production team as he's watching it, and there's like a real like, what the fuck is going on out there? This isn't what we rehearsed.
We're probably 30 odd minutes into this matchup. I think, Paulie's clipped Dieter like in the nose. Like there's like a genuine nose, but I think maybe his nose is broken. Like you're all zooted out. So like, he's like, I'm going to teach you a thing or two about the way things get done here in the US of A. This is all natural. And, I think like elbow dropped pretty hard. And as you're on the ground there, I think, this is like crowds kind of roaring. And I think maybe Dieter's also, they're responding to the blood. not the sport, right? And so he's like, okay, people like this part, right? So I'm gonna hurt you, son, and I'm gonna teach you a lesson. And I think he's like sidling up on the corner here get on the top rope for this showstopper with the high wire act. He's like, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to humble you in front of your family, but I just can't let this pass. We can cut that scene there if you want to go into next, whatever, if like the top rope stunt is later.
A different
We
scene?
can wrap it up on your turn, Tim.
Okay.
Do we want to end? So we will be ending. I guess the question for us here, right,
true.
broadly as a storytelling device, the last Tim scene will be the last scene of the game before the aftermath. Do we want to end that on the aftermath, or do we want to end the game on the end of the match, or do we want to? Do you have a different?
I think there's some other things that need to happen after.
Yeah, well, you
Okay.
and ours, yeah, you and my
Yeah.
scenes can happen in the back. I'm just curious. Yeah, Tim,
Exactly,
do you have
yeah.
something for Polly that's after this, or do you want to wait for? Do you want more match for your scene, or do you want something different?
I have to be the last scene. God damn it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what you get from being from the biggest city.
Wrap it up in my scene. See a little bit more. We're getting up onto the high ropes, and I want to see. Yeah, I want to cut back behind the scenes to see what's happening, so that as the match ends and people think that they are walking away with whatever they're walking away with.
So I guess my question is, like, for the logistics of this, is Dieter gearing up for the actual, like, what is supposed to be the finish, which is like a slam using the high rise to like jump higher than a person's supposed to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
That's
like
my thinking here.
So you guys are up on the ropes when we close this.
Yeah.
Yes, we just have to decide, is this scene ending positively or negatively for Dieter?
Oh, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's like Dieter's an old dog who is maybe learning new tricks, and it's like they don't give a shit about wrestling, but they do love some blood sport. And I think this is probably like pretty no holds barred for professional wrestling. Like, we're both pretty hurt here. I think Dieter's probably got a couple broken ribs. Like, we're kind of playing hard.
So what do we think, boys? Is this a negative or a positive ending for young Dieter? For old Dieter, rather.
For old Dieter. Yeah.
Dieter?
I think
We only have one. So also, it's worth noting
Positive.
we only have. All right, so that is the last positive until
we can
the
only
final
do
scene, which is great. That's fine. There's one white dice,
All
and
right,
three
sure.
black dice.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Great. Yeah, Dieter's looking ascendant in this moment. He's kind of taken control of the match, even though he's going off script. I think the ref is also this whole time probably whispering in your ear, like, "This is not it, guys. It's not what we rehearsed. This is not it."
Yeah, I think there's like like more, how there's like sometimes more than one ref. Like, there's like several refs around the edges who are like, okay, like, do we get them out of there? Like, this is not what we agreed on, Good for Dieter, bad for the production.
And we move next to Bonnie Parker McDade, young Malcolm.
Okay. He's watching the match, and I think maybe for the first time since this plan started to unravel is like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is like so stupid, but I'm in too deep. And I think he maybe like reaches in his pocket and he pulls out, a first class plane ticket to Acapulco, Mexico, leaving tonight,
Yes.
yeah. His bags are packed back in the getaway in the back of the Sammy's truck, and he's like, all right, well, it's too late now. Is waiting for this moment that he's going to have, a minute to break in there. He's waiting for his clear moment, and he's starting to walk towards there, and he's like, okay, I'm just walking in, grabbing it, and walking out. There's nobody's going to be there. I'm going to make sure there's going to be no guards. Should be taken care of. And
How did you take care of the guards?
one of them I poisoned. And I think the other one I'm going to, like, when I walk up and be like, what are you doing standing there? Like, go help. I'll watch the door.
Do we get like the shot of like you giving like a coffee full of like milk to the?
Yes.
An instant killer. It's a latte.
Non-dairy
Yeah.
creamer. I know. Your little tum gets upset.
have we seen? I guess the other question is like, has Sean Foote left the room yet? Has the violence gotten to the point where we see him?
Yeah. Does he leave the room though? Maybe. What do you think?
Ooh,
The scene is not going to go well for me.
it's not going to go well for you.
Oh, I think maybe Sean is there. Like you run into each other because Sean is like all blustered. Mr. Foot is all flustered. Almost like he's got a stubbed toe.
Mhm.
And he's, I think like maybe is this an awkward run-in where you're like, oh
Yes.
why am I in the office?
Yeah.
Like one of those. Like,
Like I don't know. I guess I run into him. I get my timing wrong.
At that moment, right, the door slams open, and it's and it's like Sean, like eyes wide, like, are you fucking seeing this, Bonnie? What is going on out there?
Yeah, I came to ask you, what is this? Did you plan this?
My boy's out there, Bonnie. We gotta figure this out right now. What's your guy thinking?
And
He
for
grabs
me
your
to
arm,
stay-
right,
Yeah.
and is like,
Yeah.
you've got to come with me right now. We got to put a stop to this before one of these guys kills the other.
Well, why don't you go ahead and I'll be right behind.
Totally.
Right. Other hand on shoulder. My boy's getting killed out there, Bonnie. We got to go right now.
Oh, and like on the CCTV, you can just see, like
Yeah.
Pierce just, like, hammering.
Blood coming
on
back
top
on
of
his
it, yeah.
fist. Yeah.
Just solid real kicks to the rib. Just
You're the only one who's going to be able to talk sense to that old fool.
And I think he realizes, like, oh, well, he doesn't really have a choice. Like, he didn't think that he was going to be running into him. And so he's, like, reluctantly walking towards the ring. And he's like, okay, I'll just have to, be on my feet and think fast, and I can break away. Or we'll get down to the ring, he'll be distracted, and I'll sneak back up.
When we hear the crowd roaring, like, the crowd doesn't know if it's real or not. They're loving it. What do we do about
No, he's gonna stay. I'll deal with him later.
Is there more there, or is that it? Is
No,
Bonnie just
that's
getting
the
turned
scene.
away at the last minute, trying to
Yeah.
do the thing and
Getting swept away.
we see those two like marching down the hallway, and this has to end negatively for you. So here's a black dice for you, Malcolm.
Where you're like maybe even looking over your shoulder, like, okay, I'll go with you. And you
And
can't
John's
text
like, why are you not like immediately coming with me? you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like,
right,
Why
yeah,
are
yeah.
you being reluctant right now?
It's a crisis, damn it!
Yeah.
This whole show's going off the
And
rails.
then
They're terrible.
it is
It's their
going
first
on.
big
So,
show.
and then I also am realizing, this show's going off the rails, but not in the way that I intended. Maybe
Yeah.
I do need to go talk a little sense into
Dieter before he kills
Dieter before
Polly.
before he murders someone.
Yeah, he's just like
Yeah.
Wolverine, like
Yeah, I think that scene, like I look on the monitor where I hadn't been watching, and there's blood flying. Yes, he's like
yeah,
hammering
oh.
away, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
okay,
Okay.
well,
So that brings it to me, huh?
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I think our camera follows Sean and Bonnie, like heading back towards the arena, right? Through these like kind of like labyrinthine hallways of like the backstage area. And then the camera lets them pass, and the camera moves forward and down a side hallway, and we can see Sammy Styles there. But he doesn't look like Sammy Styles. He's wearing, I think, like a Levi's, like a denim jacket, blue jeans. He's got boots on. His hair's not slicked back anymore. It's it's been washed, cleaned. I do not look at all like Sammy Styles, because I instead look like Dan Schumacher, which is my real name. And I've got that same duffel bag I've been carrying with like one hand inside of it. I've got the other hand in my pocket, and I am like hurriedly walking down the hall the opposite way from where Bonnie and Sean just came from, right? I've also been watching on the monitors, I've been in the back, and I've seen like this is not going the way that it was supposed to play out. And so I'm like striding towards the office, and it's like, I know Sean's not there. I know Bonnie's not there. That money might still be there. And I'm like trying to do my fucking forget Bonnie. I'm going to do this either way, right? Maybe this is fun to just leave on. Yeah, like I think I'll leave a lot of this for the aftermath for me. I think it's me marching down the hallway. I turn the corner where Sean's office is. Large Tony's not there anymore. He's gone from the hallway. The door slightly ajar though, and it's just me like not sprinting because I'm not in that panic yet, but I'm like walking very quickly towards the door. I think like hand on is like in my bag now. Like maybe we get like an internal shot of the bag or whatever, and it's my hand wrapped tightly around the handle of the revolver, and it's pushing open the door. And we've already set this up, so I don't think it's a huge reveal, but it's like Jim Reaper is there, right? This huge man. He's got his back to me. I think we can see, right? He's like got his hands out to either side of him in this way that, like, even though we've got the shot from behind, we can see what he's holding in either hand. And in one hand, he's holding like the stack of papers that like our camera would have already shown us are the like kind of like upcoming like incorporation documents, right? That are gonna get submitted or whatever. Like the paper that like Polly's looking for. But on the other hand, he's holding the lockbox, right? The one that we've seen on Sean's desk, that we've seen in like cutaways to this room, the lockbox that has tonight's guarantee in it. And I think it's like kind of like we get the behind shot of Jim Reaper holding both of those, and we like cut back one step further, and it's like the behind shot of me standing behind Jim Reaper in the doorway, my hand in the duffel bag, and then I think hard cut on the camera to the ring again.
Yeah.
So whatever happens with me there, maybe that's the aftermath.
And that goes negative, right?
That goes negatively, yeah, because Jim Reaper's already there, and he's got the thing I wanted to steal has been stolen already, or is in the process there. I think it's the closest we're going to get on that. With the current layout.
Yeah, I think that in the fact that this like match was ramping up and becoming more and more just like actually them beating each other. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, Pete, but like, it's like that scene in Fight Club where they just beat a dude kind of ugly. Like, does it maybe get to that where it's just like, oh my.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is like,
my God, you are not stopping. It is ruining the handsome boy, Polly Primo.
You were talking, I think like it is, I would say, I don't think he's like permanently disfigured, but it's like way more than professional wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think, Dieter is like just kind of like hammering, probably open-fisted, or like open-handed blows, but it's probably clear to the audience this is not like kayfabe, right? Like they're hurting each other. And he's like, I told you, you got a long way to go before you're going to be great, son. Like, I told your daddy too. Oh, maybe the people at home don't even know, but I know, kid. You hadn't worked a day in your life, and that's not one of the traditional values. I'm like,
yeah.
And your Cuban friend, that commie dog, misled you. And he's like, well, I'll show you what America's all about. And I think he's like red in the face, and I think is like visibly very sweaty and is straining hard. It's your scene though, so.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that the drugs that Polly took before are like kicking in. That like to a certain point, he also has like he is also out of it because of drugs. He is like maybe not even feeling the blows as much as it looks like because he is like out of it. And in this, his brain in the state it is in is like going like, whatever else is going on, I know there is one move I have to do.
Yeah, and I think this is like, maybe this is exactly what's happening right here. Is like the ref's finally kind of pulling him off, right?
Right.
He's, the lingo here, right? The ref is telling you both, it's time to go home. It's time to go home.
I think we are getting to that point where up on the ropes, Paulie, out of his mind on some stuff, beaten up, but knowing that he has to try to do this thing, and he wants to make sure that, I think also it got out of control. He thought he wanted to get hurt so his dad would come out and clear the office. Now he just is like, well, I am hurt. All I know now is I'm going to try to stick to the script so that he goes over, and maybe that.
So this is the part where I'm supposed to put you up on my shoulder, do a high flying stunt, and flip you, but you reverse it on me, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I think like from where I'm at, I like this idea of like, the refs finally pulling him off, and we've got, like Primo on the mat here looking up, like, bloodied, bruised, kind of dazed, and from like if we're in the movie scene on this, it's like this is like kind of in the part of Wolf of Wall Street where the camera's like really weird when he's like quaalude out, right? It's like happening in like slow motion for Primo. And like I think Dieter's also kind of fucked up looking here. Like I think is not unbattered.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a moment here where like the ref separates you guys for a moment to like, in the kayfabe in real life to give you guys a moment to breathe and like get your shit together. But this is also like in the corner when the ref like, I assume this harness is meant to like blend in with your outfit and is right. Like the wires are really thin, so it's supposed to look, like a wire rig. So right, it's like while you're in the corner, kind of like catching your breath, the ref is like hooking this harness onto you. That's like kind of like cleverly tucked into one of the rope corners.
And I would say the irony here, I think, is even like Dieter's just like even kind of just like slaps the ref away. Like hits the ref after he's connected. He's become a heel anyway, right? Like it was like the thing he was trying to avoid has ultimately happened here, where he's now the bad guy, right? Because I think even the audience is like, you hear the very like theatrical, like, oh, like they're all kind of disgusted, right? And like, I think right in the second, Dieter probably realizes it, which is like, well, bats the ref away. I think he's got the harness on, and he's like kind of climbing up on the ropes, and he's like, go on then, Polly. Call for daddy, just like we practiced. And he's like, I think, trying to pull him up on his shoulder here, getting ready for this big move.
Again, I think the only thing Paulie at this point knows is like, well, I got to do it. And in his state, he like, you were describing it like he knows he has to let go at a certain time so that no one gets hurt when they fall to the mat, and he can't do it. Like,
well, so I'll say just one thing here. We need a magnificent self-destruction, and we've also established that the wire rig has been messed with a little bit.
Yeah,
by multiple hands at this point. So how does
it's been messed with so much it's actually fixed now.
It's fixed.
That's
again.
actually kind of funny. So the question for me here is, are we counting this as you establishing this, Tim, or are you resolving this? Is a question we should ask. Because this last dice is wild, which means that it can end positively or negatively for your character.
Resolve it.
You're resolving it? So does this resolve positively or negatively for your character?
I think with the heel turn that Dieter was maybe trying to avoid, surprisingly, this dude who looks like he was fucking it up all the time, like, kind of comes out looking
I think so,
better than the wholesome, or not wholesome.
America got scary in the last 40 minutes. Not unlike our Cold War presence in the late 80s.
But I think then maybe in that regard it ends positive
all right,
for
so
him.
with that in mind, how do we think what does this final mechanic here look like? What is that? If this is a positive end for Polly, and we still need a magnificent self-destruction, where does that bring us in the story?
I got an idea.
Hit me. Yeah.
I mean, I think like this is the wire rigging has been like messed with enough times here, and I don't quite like understand exactly what this is, but I think it's like a bunch of people kind of fiddled with it, and so maybe this is like up on the side of this. It's about to kind of pull this thing off. Dieter's, I think, heart is just like pounding through his head, right? Like as it's like the thrill of the crowd, and I think it's like both kind of like it's too late to turn back. He's kind of crossed the line that he was trying not to. And I think that the wire rig is like a winch where the peg gets pulled and it's just like, zzz, like it's way faster than he's expecting. Right. And so it's like, even before this, like before he can get him up on his shoulder, I think he's almost like kind of pulled up really fast. And I think like suddenly it's like slow motion for Dieter. Right. And it's like through the lights, I think we get just like we opened this. kind of flashback to the decades. And I think as the sharp pain builds in Dieter's right arm and he feels a tightness in his chest growing, all he can hear are the screams and cheers as the lights and the camera bulbs flash, the smell of the sweat and the blood on the mats. You know, and as I think he's like kind of sailing through the air and feeling his like, lower extremities less and less. This is what it's all about, baby. This is the thrill of wrestling. I think for just a brief second there, Dieter is the last firework that goes off at this match as he suffers, I think, a cardiac arrest on the high wire ropes here. And I think, you know, by the time he comes back down, it's too late.
The move was the move executed properly?
I think like it's almost like it's like done, but Dieter kind of pulled off, right? Like you flip out of it, but Dieter's kind of like swinging on this rope. And I think as the wiring comes back down, it's like he doesn't land on his feet. He kind of collapses face down onto the mat. You know, we turn him over and I think just a couple of red stripes down his cheek. Big smile on his face, as the ref hammers out the 3 count. 1, 2, 3.
Just drugged out Polly, just like barely like slumping an arm over him.
Yeah, kind of.
He doesn't know if he actually won.
I just love the idea of like a dazed, looted out Polly, like kind of getting his fist raised with the belt, like, you know, barely able to cohere while Dieter's lying on the ground. Medics haven't rushed in yet because you got to preserve the finish.
Yeah.
I like that. It's sad to me, but I like it. With the last scene finished, we now move into the aftermath. This is the epilogue of our story. It is the game's denouement. It's likely that the action has peaked, and that's totally okay. By this point, we can probably see each character's general trajectory. There's still time for tragic and unwholesome surprises. The aftermath should be told in montage, and it should be fast. First, we are going to roll the dice that we have collected over the course of this game. And then we will consult. There's an aftermath table, and it basically tells us like if the result that we got was bad or real bad. And so just like we did with the tilt, we are going to roll all of one color of a dice, add them together, roll all of the other color of dice, and then subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. And whatever's left will tell you your final number, and we will consult the aftermath table to see what that means. And so it will give us our kind of marching orders for the game's finale. Black results are generally physical. White results are generally social, mental, or emotional. You really, really don't want these dice to cancel each other out. The further from 0 your final result, the happier the ending. We will play the montage with one "this is" statement per each die associated with your character. So if you have 4 dice, you know, you'll say 4 statements that all begin with, "This is my character doing something." It should be active. It should be about your guy, not somebody else. And then someone else takes a die and does the same thing. We're describing the outcome of the game. It could be tightly focused. It could also be meandering across many years. We can kind of figure out what makes sense for us in this scene. And when we are out of dice, our story is over. If you end the game with few dice, not only will your poor guy have a horrible outcome, but you get precious little say in the matter. Maybe you just disappear. Why don't we roll these dice real quick? So, Pete, we'll start with you first, and we'll just go down the line again. You want to give me 3d6 for your white dice, and then 1d6 for your black dice?
Okay. That is a 4, a 2, and a 6 for black. Oh, sorry, for white.
4, 2, and a 6 for white. So that's 12.
And a 3 for the black.
All right, so that leaves you with 9 white altogether, which I'm just going to note that here. Malcolm, you've got 3 black and 1 white. So same deal. Give me 3d6 for the black and then a 1d6 for the white.
You 2, 4 for the black
8.
die.
Yes, that's 8 black.
Okay, and 2.
So that's 6 black altogether. All right. I have 2 white and I have 1 black. So, oh no. That is 4 for my white. That is 2 for my black. So that means I end up with 2 white, which is a very low result. And then Tim, you have 3 black and 2 white. So this could go any direction for you. So I'm going to roll 3d6 for your black and
Yeah.
then 2d6 for your white.
Yep. That's 8 for my black dice. And 2, you said, for my
2 for white. Yeah, you have 3 black dice, 2 white dice.
6. Oh.
Ooh, it's also very bad for you.
Yeah, that is really bad for me.
So that is so you had 8 minus 6. That leaves you with 2 black.
2 black. All right.
Ooh.
All right. So
We all
I'm
got
just gonna-
pretty low.
Yeah. Well, some of us did better than others.
Yeah.
In a manner of speaking.
So I'm going to go through and read them in order. What our results mean for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
So 9 white for Peter on the aftermath table. White high.
That's Dieter with a D.
Sorry, Dieter. Yeah, it is true. This is for Dieter, not for Peter. So a white on an 8 to a 9 is nothing to crow about. Not better, but not way worse either. Maybe the car is wrecked, or maybe your wife is leaving you, or there's a court date. But compared to some of the other people you know, so you got a pretty decent, Pete. You're not. You could have gotten a lot worse. A 1 on a white is dreadful. You are certainly dead, probably from self-inflicted wounds. People you care about are also probably dead, maybe through your own stupid, ugly failure. To say that you fucked up is an insult to fucked upness. You have redefined the term. So compared to how bad it could have been, you did it all right.
Okay.
Malcolm, you have 6 black. The aftermath result here is pathetic. You will suffer. Oh, dear God, will you suffer? And everyone will know of your malfeasance, your stupidity, your lack of common sense and decency. You're probably going to be locked up, too. Now let's scroll down. I had 2 white for my high result. Merciless. You might not be dead on the outside, but you sure as hell are dead on the inside. The emotional or mental wounds you have suffered will never heal. The future is a brick wall. So not great for me, all things considered. And then Tim, finally, you got 2 black. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
So 2 black is brutal. Wounds that will never heal, for starters. Stuff sawed off, blown off, or burned off on your way to grand, ignominious failure. Kiss whatever you care about goodbye. You may die. You may not. It seems like it went worse for some people than others. Does anyone need a second to think about it before we start doing our montage statements?
So we do however many statements based on the number of dice.
Yes. So they are I am statements, right? Or Pete and Malcolm will each have 4 statements. I only have 3, and Tim has 5. That's how the dice shook out at the end.
Okay, should we start the epilogue here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's, I am briefly coming to some kind of state of consciousness, right, as the defibrillator paddles in the back of the ambulance, going to shock him awake here. On our way to the hospital following this match. And I think Dieter, reaches out calling for Parker McDade. And it's like, Parker, we won, right? We did it. We saved wrestling. We showed him what it was all about.
Sure did.
And I think for, a minute there, it's like, it's kind of grasping out and actually maybe, in this kind of altered state, I don't think he quite see or anything, but just with this kind of one weak hand from the stretcher there, reaches up and pats him on the shoulder, just as we've seen so many times in this match.
All right, my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This is Bonnie Parker McDade. He's in the hospital. He's in the waiting room. We don't hear exactly what is being said, but we see, a man in a white coat with a clipboard walk up. He's talking to Bonnie Parker, and, he looks distressed. But then we turn, and there's 2 police officers also walking down the hallway towards him.
Hell yeah. This is Sammy the Smooth Operator Styles, a.k.a. what did I say my name was? Dan Schumacher. Standing over the dead body of Jim Reaper, holding a smoking gun in hand and a lockbox full of cash in the other, as I hear the sound of footsteps come running down the halls towards me.
Sean Paul Foot Jr., I am busted up. My face, I cannot be a face anymore. After this match, I have to get rid of the Poly Primo character, and I spend the next several years trying out new, different characters, kind of in the same way that our good friend Bonnie Parker McDade had to leave. We see a kind of reflection in that, where his face is not the face, and he is failing at trying to make another character land, even in his own like father's wrestling arena, as the WWF at the time starts picking up more and more things. He's just grasping at any type of straw to stay in the wrestling world.
This is dangerous Dieter Skank, and I think he's been stabilized in the hospital a bit here, and I think is surrounded by his 3 huge, beautiful daughters. Deirdre, the eldest, they're all here. I don't think he's doing great. He's looking bad. He's intubated. He's got all the sensors and wires hooked up, and Dieter's, telling Deirdre, you got to carry on the legacy. You are now dangerous, Deirdre.
This is Bonnie Parker McDade. He is in a police interrogation room. He's being screamed and yelled at, and he's like crying. He's weeping into his hands.
This is Sammy Styles in the courtroom as the judge pronounces me guilty for the first-degree murder of James Arneson, a.k.a. Jim Reaper, and for the attempted theft of what turns out to be way less than a couple $1 million.
$25,000.
No, sorry. For what turns out to be the attempted theft of a check.
Yeah, there's no cash.
Of course.
There's no cash. Yeah, it was a signed and insured check.
Yeah.
Because this is a big venue. Why would we?
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
That's very funny. But it's a big check. It's like Exhibit C.
Yeah.
Yes. This is Sean Paul Foot Jr. giving up a life of drugs and instead switching to painkillers.
Which are not drugs.
Right. He gives up. He swaps one drug for a different set of drugs, thinking he's getting his life changed around, and slowly watching the slow slip into less money and more painkillers being needed every day to make that pain that always wrecks his jaw and his neck more of an addiction than maybe previously he had ever been to anything else. So.
This is dangerous Dieter Skank being lowered into the ground, I think, in a cool dark wood coffin, having passed away, I think, from complications stemming from this heart attack here as he's lowered into his grave here in, I think, the Tacoma Great Northern Cemetery.
This is Bonnie speaking. He's in the an orange jumpsuit. He's speaking to his lawyer, and his lawyer is explaining to him, like, you need to take this plea. They're trying to pin this that you're planned and were accomplice to this murder and theft. But if you just take this plea, they'll drop it down to manslaughter. You'll do 15 years. This is the best you're gonna get. It does not look good.
This is also my last one. This is Sammy Styles in a cell, staring at the on a white too. They say the future is a brick wall, and I think it's literal here. This is Sammy Styles in the cell that he's going to spend the rest of his life in after having been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Jim Reaper. There I am. That's the end of me. Just in there.
All right. This is Sean Paul Foot Jr.
Sean Paul Foot Jr. going down in the Risky Standard archives as one of the best names of all time so far.
This is him getting out of 2-year prison sentence for stealing his own father's car to try to sell to get money for pain pills. cleaned up, but now nowhere to live, figuring life out of jail.
And I think this is like 5 years in the future. This is dangerous Dieter Skank looking down on the Tacoma Dome with a smile on his face from heaven. As
That's the
dangerous Deirdre Skank, I think, to a roaring crowd in the middle of the ring, hoists the Timberland title in one hand with a baby on her hip in the other as she's crowned the first female champion of the Great Northern Wrestling Federation in its history, as I think the both lower and upper decks are full to the brim. And I think kind of dawns a new age of wrestling here in the year 1990.
This is Bonnie Parker. Years later, Y2K has come around. He is standing at the grave of Dangerous Dieter. You know, it is a bleak winter day. We cut to him, you know, walking away. We go, he's working the night shift at a 24-hour Subway. You know, and then, you know, people come in and they see him and they immediately turn around and walk out. They don't know who he is or what he's done, but they're horrified by his look and don't want to eat any sandwiches made by him. We cut to he is standing on a building and he's looking over Tacoma. He looks over at the Tacoma Dome and takes a deep breath, and then he steps off the edge.
Whew. All right. Sean Paul Foote Jr. Once again walking into someone's backyard. YouTube has just picked up and people love watching people fight in backyards.
Oh, damn.
He can drag himself one more time. It's just a picnic table. It's not going to hurt that bad. You can get through this. All these fights, they've got to be being watched on this thing that kids are talking about, this YouTube. 25 views. This is years of being thrown through picnic tables in backyards. It's glorified bum fights. This is him getting into the car, which is also his house. He gets into it, closes the door. He doesn't wake up the next morning. He just... Something stopped her in the middle of the night.
Is that it? That's it, right?
And that's it.
As they often do, that's another story of fiasco ending in heartbreak and disaster here on Risky Standard.
Tune in next time for something completely different.
Yeah, true. We don't normally play sad wrestling stories. Join us next time for a sort of sci-fi space adventure, most likely, as we continue to play a few one-off games in between the build-up to our next season, where we'll be playing a full-length game of Felix Isaac's The Wild Sea, a sort of weird fantasy adventure game full of sailing a treetop sea, exploring old ruins, and encountering strange creatures. But until then, keep taking risks, keep
Keep it risky, baby.